So this war hero, Sergeant Ben Robert Smith of Australia, is getting the book thrown at him. Um, this is the unfortunate truth of what we deal with when we send young people to do very bad things. Um, now let's do like a checks and balance kind of thing. Is Sergeant Smith more or less guilty than some pilot or some drone pilot in some country like the US or Israel that bombs a building and kills 200 people, innocent people, or school children? Come on, Australia. More than likely, this young man was probably being looked at as political material, as somebody that may have been a good situation to be leadership material in your country, and obviously somebody in an opposing political force try to dig up whatever they could on this guy, any dirt, in order to prevent him from being able to secure a position in politics, whether he liked it or not. He probably got selected by some other political group that he didn't know of, and they're looking at him to um, to take on a position like maybe even prime minister of or president. I don't know if you guys got president of Australia. This happens a lot, especially in the U.S. When people are looking, government and politics are looking at somebody in leadership to take on a leadership role. The opposing party always tries to dig up dirt before they have a chance of introducing that person for a potential leadership position, like governor, congressman, senator, or president. Is Ben Smith guilty of murder? Well, how do you put that in perspective? How do you put that in perspective if you sent him there to murder people? We knew Afghanistan wasn't. They call it peacekeeping, but it's not peacekeeping. There's like it's war, and it's war that I don't know 11. They say 11 or more different world nations have died or failed to conquer. It's a war of different dynamics. It's a war of like not just a war of people being killed, but it was a war of cultural clashes, vendettas. A lot of Afghanis used U.S. and coalition forces to kill their 1,000 year or 500 year rivals. There's a lot of lying going on with reference to Afghanistan. A lot of lying, and the bad part is the American people don't know, um, and the world doesn't necessarily always know of the bad shit that happened in Afghanistan or has it's still happening. The sacrificing of virgins were literally there was video and they took the video down where you could see it, and this is before AI was out there of young women being stripped naked and their throats being slit and their blood being collected by I don't know, some satanic group, and maybe I don't know if it's the Taliban or what they are. But this is the stuff that Ben Robert Smith of Australia had to deal with. It's hard. I mean, how do you decide how can you interact with a community where they'll put a gun in the hand of a child, a 10-year-old, and tell them to die for Allah? Where's the line? Where do you draw these lines? And I'm not trying to defend Ben Robert Smith, but I'm trying to inform you that if we start really looking at the truth, it's disturbing. And if I was Australia, I would literally put this to bed. I would let this go. He may not be, I would say, a hero, because not anybody put in a situation where they're serving their country and have to make these decisions aren't necessarily heroes. They're patriots, but sometimes the word hero, and I noticed that came a lot from the communism, from like the Soviets. When they wanted to get the people behind some political movement, they would label heroes in order for the people to make a connection with somebody from their community as being connected with the effort, right? It's a lot of this Leninism, Stalinism, that a lot of this Bolshevik mentality, right? Uh, but no, no, he may not be a hero, but he's a patriot and he served his country. And yeah, he probably did some really bad things. Now, why now? That's my question. As an American, a military veteran, somebody who's performed law enforcement work, why now? Why is Ben Smith or Ben Robert Smith? Why is it so important right now? And are these witnesses credible? What are they hiding? Or did they make a deal? I mean, what's really going on? And who is the opposing force, the people that are supposedly seeking the truth? Who are they really? Who are these people in Australian politics that are trying to take this young man down? Everybody wants to say, oh, well, it's justice. We're trying to, but okay, if you're really Australia, if you really care about justice, then, why don't we stand up against what's going on with Israel? And even a lot of things, not in just the U.S., but a lot of stuff that's going on with murder right now, with these mistakes that are occurring, where the U.S. or other militaries, to include Australian military, gets involved in things where results in the death of not one or two people that are labeled innocent, but you know, a school full of children. You're probably like, oh, I don't know, I can't. That's something different. It's not the same. This guy, we just want him, but we don't want to acknowledge the fact that uh, world nations are murdering a lot of people right now, minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, an hour ago, or even yesterday, recently, not when Ben Robert Smith was on active duty service serving his country. I'm talking about just a few. We can literally still remember, like just right now, of incidents where um, conventional military troops, specifically, I'm focused on what's going on with Israel, because I mean, like, they're literally raping people in detention centers, and they're getting away with it. What did Ben Robert Smith do? He signed a contract. He said he's going to serve his country, and he did whatever he needed to do to survive and to protect the people that served under him, his troops. Um, a lot of the stuff is very admonishable from the sights or the conscience of civilians, because civilians, most of them, not all of them, but most of them, are scared to deal with these realities. They're scared. They don't want to touch on the fact that um, the Taliban, as soon as the U.S. left, rounded up and mass raped women and children. Because unfortunate to hear, but in Afghanistan they like raping boys. Men, grown men do that, and they're trying to bring justice for the Afghanistan people. Well, if you cared about the Afghanistan people, you wouldn't have walked away from them when Biden pulled out. You would have stood by the Afghanistan people and not allow the Taliban to do what they were going to do if you really cared. So I'm calling bullshit on this whole Ben Robert Smith thing. Obviously, there are war crimes occurring right now, and probably he may have been part of, or maybe could have committed a war crime, or many war crimes. But when you put people against the wall and the rules of engagement are vague, and you don't know if your people that working beside you, your host country people, Afghanistan army people, and so etc., you don't know whether they're against you or they're with you, or if they're trying to kill you or not. The whole situation is perplexed, and I don't think the Australian police or intelligence can really put a finger on it unless they were there in Ben Robert Smith's shoes, Sergeant Ben Robert Smith's shoes. If unless they were in his shoes, they can't make a decision. They don't know because even the witnesses will have a different experience and different perspectives. And everybody involved in those operations have been impacted negatively, emotionally, mentally, to the point where even their eyewitness testimony is questionable as a result of what really happened and what they actually experienced. I'm saying this because I've done many interviews, uh, been involved in where I performed an active investigation and found that, you know, people are going to believe certain things and say certain things. Um, the an attestment or an attestation of the fact that Sergeant Ben Robert Smith was there, that those decisions were made, and maybe they weren't even his decisions. Maybe he was following orders. Is so perplexed. Like I said, so vague because you don't know. You don't know. There's this fog of war, and these are things that we, as people, have to accept. That we're writing a blank check when we send our sons and daughters to places like Afghanistan, Iraq, or any war zone around the world. That there's a chance that they're gonna get caught up in this bullshit, and I wouldn't. I would question the credibility of anybody that's gonna call this BS allegations after wait years after the fact, because well, all I can see from afar is that this is all politically motivated. There's some liberal people that hate Australia. They're Australians, but they probably hate their own country, and they're not willing to back up the people. They're war veterans. They're combat killers that they sent out there, and they're now questioning Monday morning quarterbacking the shit that they had to go through in order to survive. My thoughts. I could be wrong, but I'm looking forward to what you're gonna tell me. Talk to you soon.